Have you noticed how, in many situations, talking too much can weaken you?
What if I told you that the secret to being smarter than any woman, without saying a single word, lies exactly in silence? In this video, you will discover how to use the power of the absence of words to dominate attention, create a magnetic presence, and become an unforgettable man. Inspired by Nietzsche and the concept of the Übermensch, I will show you how to transform your self-confidence, elevate your dominance, and command any interaction with a silent weapon that confuses, fascinates, and attracts genuine respect. If you are tired of trying to prove your worth by talking too much and want to become the unshakable rock that reigns in silence, stay with me until the end. Here begins the transformation that will revolutionize your social and love life forever. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe to the channel now. But before that, I want to know your opinion. Which is worse, chasing someone who does not value you, or facing silence and learning to be enough for yourself? How many times have you opened your mouth trying to explain, justify, or prove something to her, only to end up feeling more vulnerable and weakened? This is the tragedy of the talking man. The more words he uses to defend or show himself, the more he reveals his hidden weaknesses. Every sentence, every attempt to convince, ends up giving away a piece of his inner castle, opening doors for her to decipher his insecurities. Excessive communication, instead of protecting, becomes a dangerous exposure because it is not only what you say, but what you let slip between the lines that she perceives. Women, by their nature, have a sharp sensitivity to catch these nuances, even when you think you are being clear and firm. By trying to please, justify your mistakes, or control her perception of you, you unknowingly kneel before the approval you so desire, giving up your inner throne. This search for understanding, which many men believe is a sign of strength, is actually a silent cry of fear. That deep fear of not being accepted, loved, or valued, which makes you a hostage to others' expectations and transforms you into a domesticated version of yourself. Nietzsche saw this talking man as an animal that barks very loudly but forgot how to bite. One who loses his original strength by talking too much and submitting to others' judgment. The man who needs to prove something has already lost before he even begins. Because talking too much is a sign of fragility, disguised insecurity. True strength lies in those who remain silent and firm, who do not feel the need to explain or justify their actions. She does not want you to explain yourself. She wants to feel if you can bear the weight of emotions and challenges without falling apart, without begging for crumbs of attention. Silence, in this sense, is not absence, but absolute presence, the language of self-confidence that intimidates and fascinates. The man who speaks less but speaks with weight and meaning has real control of the situation. That is why the tragedy of the talking man is not understanding that his words, no matter how beautiful and rehearsed, are often his own chains. Every speech, every explanation, only reinforces the fear he tries to hide. The wise man, inspired by Nietzsche, learns the power lies in mastering the art of silence, in building an impenetrable inner wall that not even the strongest provocations can break down. Stopping talking too much is not silence out of fear, but rising above the noise, becoming a magnetic and impregnable presence, reigning without needing applause or justifications. There is a silence that is pure cowardice, that empty silence, born from fear, insecurity, and the will to avoid confrontation at any cost. But there is a completely different silence, a silence that is the true crown of the man who masters himself. Nietzsche called this man the Übermensch, the Superman who does not need to justify himself, who does not beg for justice, nor plead for recognition. This man does not lower his head before anyone because he knows his worth. His silence is not absence, but a powerful manifestation of control and inner sovereignty. He's like a lion that does not roar out of fear, but only calmly watches, saving his strength for the right moment, for the decisive move that no one will question. The man who remains silent is not passive. On the contrary, he is unpredictable and impenetrable. When she tries to provoke him, expecting an immediate reaction, he remains firm, still, like a rock in the middle of the storm. He does not respond to attacks with attacks. He does not seek explanations or justifications that would sound like pleas. His weapon is calculated silence, the absence of reaction in the face of the emotional chaos she tries to create. This silence bothers her because it takes away her control of the situation. She is used to manipulating responses, provoking reactions to measure her power. But before the man who reigns in silence, her whole game loses effect. Nietzsche teaches us that the man who talks too much is trapped on a tightrope, always swinging between the animal and the Superman. Every word spoken is a stumble, every reaction a wind that can knock him down. To be smarter than her, the man must learn not to move when pushed, not to react when silenced, not to return attack with attack. The wise man finds his strength in the unmoving center, in the stillness that does not give in to the impulse to prove something or control everything. He's the one who understands that true power lies in not being predictable, in being the enigma that fascinates and confounds. But this silence is only a crown when born from authenticity, when it is the fruit of an inner decision not to submit any more to the game of appearances and other people's control. If it is fake, it will be perceived as false, and she will laugh, call you a fake alpha, and lose all respect. Real silence is the reflection of the sovereignty of a man who killed the emotional beggar inside himself, who no longer needs applause, explanations, or validation. He is enough for himself. He is complete. And in this silence lies a magnetic presence, an inner power that cannot be broken, an invisible crown that no one can take away. In female nature, there is an ancestral instinct that constantly leads her to test the strength and stability of the man by her side. It is not cruelty or malice, but a deep need to be sure that the one she chose to share her life with is really capable of enduring the emotional storms she herself carries. She will squeeze, disappear, provoke, create chaos and silence, all to see if the man bends or remains unshakable. Each test is a challenge to his sovereignty, and it is precisely at that moment, when everything seems to collapse, that the true man reveals himself, the one who does not retreat, does not despair, does not beg for crumbs of attention. She knows that a man who runs to put out emotional fires is still trapped in the chains of neediness and insecurity. She does not want a firefighter, a fire extinguisher, but a mountain, solid, firm, unshakable. The mountain does not try to control the fire. It simply remains, firm and unchanged, until the storm passes. When you accept this stance, stop reacting to chaos, stop responding to provocations, you begin to shape your inner power in a way that no external test can destroy. This is the true proof of strength, the invisible foundation that sustains the throne of the man who needs to prove nothing. It is natural for her to use all her resources, charm, anger, tears, accusations, to try to draw out a reaction from you, to test if the boy still lives inside you. And it may hurt to feel the weight of that silence, the urge to respond, justify, comfort. But this is the time of transformation, the burial of the inner boy who begs for approval. The sovereign man does not give in to her despair, does not bow down to silence the storm. He simply remains breathing, observing, firm in his center. He does not flee nor fight the fire. He is the mountain that the fire cannot burn. When she realizes she no longer controls you, that you do not fall apart to fit her expectations, something powerful happens. She stops seeing you as a fragile boy and begins to respect the man who is capable of enduring absence, lack, silence. This respect is the soil where genuine love can be born, free of blackmail and manipulation. She tests until her last breath, but you remain. And it is in this invisible, silent, and constant game that true male dominance is built. The one that does not shout, does not beg, does not humiliate, but reigns sovereign, firm, and relentless. Part 4. Inside every man lives an inner child. the one who cries in solitude, who trembles before rejection, who despairs at absence and silence. This child is the root of your insecurities, the weak point she instinctively knows how to exploit. It is the voice that begs for explanations, the anxiety that makes you open your phone every minute waiting for a response, the fear that makes you justify every mistake with too many words. As long as this child lives inside you, you will be trapped in a cycle of emotional dependence, vulnerable to manipulation and the relentless search for approval. It is this part that needs to die, to be buried without a funeral, so the true man can be reborn, strong, sovereign, and unshakable. Nietzsche saw this neediness as the quietest form of slavery. The man who depends on others' validation has already sold himself before even opening his mouth. I myself have carried this invisible leash, trying to be loved, accepted, understood, filling internal voids with promises, words, and desperate gestures. But I realized that no external effort fills the emptiness that lives inside us. What truly fills it is the death of that hungry child, the death of neediness that imprisons, that makes you bow and beg for crumbs of attention. When this part dies, the man is born who does not buy presents, who does not negotiate respect, who exists by himself, and that is enough. This internal death is neither simple nor comfortable. It burns, it hurts, it feels like loneliness. It is a process that tests every fiber of your being because it demands abandoning the comfort of emotional dependence, easy applause, and the illusion that being loved means surrendering to chaos. But it is this death that allows true freedom, the freedom not to bow before affection, not to trade your peace for fleeting caresses, to be the mountain that remains still before the storm. This is the man Nietzsche described, the man who is not a hostage of the inner child, but sovereign of his own destiny. When you accept this transformation, you begin to realize that genuine respect is born from your ability to be strong in absence, stable in silence, and not fall apart to please. She will test you to the limit, try to draw out answers, justifications, proofs, but you remain firm, silent, disturbing because you are unpredictable and because you do not belong to her, nor to her chaos. You belong to yourself, and it is exactly this man that the woman respects, admires, and desires. This is the true conquest, the conquest of your own inner power, where neediness died so the king could be born. Being a man who reigns in silence is not just about not speaking. It is an art that demands discipline, self-knowledge, and constant practice. The first strategy to cultivate this magnetic presence is to master your emotional intelligence. This means learning to identify and control your emotions before they control you. In moments of conflict or provocation, instead of responding immediately, take a deep breath, observe your impulses, and choose silence as your initial response. Silence is not empty. It carries power because it shows that you are in control, but you do not let yourself be carried away by emotional storms. This calm and stable posture attracts respect and fascination because it reveals unshakable confidence. Another fundamental technique is to invest in nonverbal communication. The way you position yourself, steady and calm eye contact, relaxed but dominant body language, all of this speaks much louder than words. For example, crossing your arms is not necessarily a sign of being closed off, but can be a gesture that imposes distance and authority. Looking firmly into the eyes without aggression shows that you do not fear confrontations, that you do not run from situations. Your posture should be like that of a monolith, solid, immobile, and impenetrable. She will pick up on this silent energy and feel naturally attracted to the mysterious strength you emit. Furthermore, it is essential to create a routine of constant self-improvement. This includes taking care of the body, practicing exercises that develop strength and posture, and the mind, reading, reflecting, meditating. The silent man is not just passive muteness. He is an active power that manifests in all areas of life. The more you strengthen yourself internally, the less you will feel the need to prove something to someone. This creates a virtuous circle. Your security generates respect. Respect feeds your calm, and this calm maintains your powerful silence. Do not forget that true power is invisible. It manifests in the consistency of your behavior, not in empty words. Finally, learn to accept the discomfort of silence, especially in relationships. Often, silence is confused with indifference or coldness, and this can provoke strong reactions. But this is proof that you are on the right path. The woman will test how far you can endure, trying to push you out of your comfort zone. Do not run to fill every silence. Do not try to explain or justify. Remain in your firm presence, showing that your value does not depend on her approval. This balance between mystery and strength creates a magnetic attraction that words could never build. Your true voice is in silence, and it is there that you will be unforgettable. Silence, when truly understood, ceases to be merely the absence of words and becomes the most powerful weapon of a man who seeks sovereignty. Unlike the noise of fragile men who try to appear strong by shouting and justifying their actions, the silence of the dominating man is a clear manifestation of independence. It is a silent attack, an invisible blow that disarms, confounds, and commands respect. When you stop reacting to verbal attacks and provocations, you break the cycle of control she tries to exert over you. Your lack of response is not weakness, but rather a demonstration that you are above the need to prove anything, that your worth does not depend on arguments or explanations. This posture not only disarms those who try to manipulate your emotions, but also frees you from the prison of the need for external approval. Men who make noise want to be seen, want to convince, want to survive the storms of relationships with words. The man who reigns in silence, however, is untouchable because his strength comes from within, from the understanding that he owes nothing to anyone. Each silent word is a brick in the wall that protects your identity, your inner space, your emotional freedom. This silence is an expression of Nietzschean will to power, an invisible throne where you sit sovereign, untouchable, even when everything around seems to collapse. However, silence is not a superficial strategy or a cheap trick to impress. It must be born from deep self-knowledge, from the depth of emotional meatiness that makes many men lose control and fall apart in the search for affection. When silence is genuine, it becomes unbeatable because it is the manifestation of inner sovereignty, that place where no provocation can penetrate. It is the result of a process that transforms anxiety into serenity, fear into courage, dependence into autonomy. Only then does the man become the rock that does not yield to storms, the enigma that fascinates because no one can decipher it. Finally, when she realizes that your silence is not a gesture of indifference, but a symbol of power, something changes in the dynamic between you. She fills the void that she cannot fill with provocations, tears, or manipulations. This lack of reaction leaves her disoriented, and paradoxically, it is there that true respect is born, the reverent fear of a man who does not bow, who does not fall apart to please, who simply exists with all his strength and mystery. Silence ceases to be just defense to become attack and freedom, opening the way for relationships based on authenticity and genuine respect, where the man is the sovereign protagonist of his own story. Nietzsche challenges us to abandon all masks, insecurities, and conditioning that imprison us to finally become who we truly are, in the context of masculinity and human relationships. This message is a call for radical authenticity, for you to stop adapting to others' desires and expectations, and instead raise your own identity as an unshakable fortress. Being the man who reigns in silence is not about pretending or manipulating. It is about discovering your true core and living from it without fear of judgment or rejection. This is the spirit of the Bermensch, the Superman Nietzsche proposed as an ideal, someone who transcends social mediocrity and becomes the author of his own existence. To become who you are requires courage, discipline, and a willingness to face the pain of self-knowledge. It is necessary to kill the inner child who seeks constant approval and acceptance. It is necessary to accept the void that arises when you stop trying to control everything and everyone around you. This journey of transformation is not easy because it requires letting go of the illusion of emotional security that comes from explanations, justifications, and verbal appeals. But it is precisely in this void that true freedom is born. The freedom to exist without needing to explain yourself, to be complete without needing applause, to create an internal empire that no one can invade. Silence, therefore, is not just a tactic to gain respect or fascination. It is the ultimate expression of the man who embraced his essence. It is the manifesto of the individual who does not bow or break, even before the storms of feminine emotions or the social pressure to fit a mold. Nietzsche reminds us that the greatest act of power is not in the words we say, but in the firmness of what we do not need to say. This silent presence is what makes a man truly unforgettable, magnetic, and feared, not by brute force, but by absolute mastery of himself. Finally, Nietzsche's legacy teaches us that this transformation is a continuous and infinite process. There is no final point in the search for authenticity and inner strength, because becoming who you are means always being under construction, always breaking limits and surpassing yourself. If you decide to embark on this journey, you will be walking the path of the man who does not depend on words to exist, who reigns in silence, and who, above all, chooses his own truth, a truth that no woman, no situation, or anyone will ever take from you. Be that man and transform your life into a kingdom where silence speaks louder than any scream. You have come this far because you are ready for real change, to leave behind the man who talks too much, who begs for approval and gets lost in words. Now it is time to act with the wisdom of silence, to build this magnetic presence that needs to prove nothing to anyone. Remember, being the man who reigns in silence is a power few understand, but that profoundly transforms your social, romantic, and inner life. The journey is not easy, but it is worth every step, every resistance, every moment of silence you choose to keep. If this video spoke to you, subscribe to the channel now to continue receiving content that will challenge your mind and strengthen your inner power. Activate notifications so you don't miss any strategy that will help you become increasingly the man who does not bow to anything or anyone. Leave your comment. I want to know which of these lessons you will apply first in your life. Be strong, be silent, and see you in the next video. Some think this was the end. But beware, the war is not over yet. There are still things left unsaid. These 2 videos in front of you are not here by chance. And if everything you believe about yourself is just a reflection of someone's gaze, click now on one of the videos beside and start breaking this mirror. You will have to risk the click. So, which one will you choose?